All right, as we continue our discussion on chapter 10, and keep in mind, it's, the focus of the chapter overall is helping others and the psychology that informs that in terms of when do we help, why do we choose to help these people over other people, what does helping do for us? So here we look at the 5 steps of helping in an emergency, and this is exactly the kind of question that you might see in the essay portion of the final exam. So make sure that you study it closely. And as always, don't try and just memorize. Try and understand. Again, you can memorize parables and passages out of the Bible. But what your preacher wants you to do is really understand the word, not just memorize certain verses. What does it actually mean? So the story of Lazarus. It's not just enough for you to remember the story, but it's trying to make a larger point within that. So whether it be reading your Bible, your Quran, your social psychology book, I would encourage you to approach the learning processes in all the same ways. So in this case here, right? And again, a lot of this is just intuitive. So the first step is actually noticing something that's happening. And this was seen, pretty obvious. Like, the book, the chapter begins, for example, in talking about, or this section of the chapter, it talks about there was this case in Minnesota where it was an apartment complex, and this dude was like in the hallway beating and raping a woman. Several people came outside their door, saw it, went back outside and went back inside and did whatever. And this went on for several hours. They got this on surveillance. So that's a situation where obviously you're going to see clearly that there's an emergency going on there. But a lot of times we're distracted. So think about, again, you're driving along somewhere. There may be somebody in distress on the side of the road, but you're, again, trying to focus on where you're getting to, might be texting, fishing around with the radio. So you may not necessarily see that there's an emergency. Same thing again, you walk into class, there may be something going on, you got your headphones on, you don't know that these things are going on around you. Step 2, do you interpret the event as an emergency, or is it something that is not as pressing? So is this person really sick? Are they really drunk? They'll just resolve their own family, quarrel. It doesn't have anything to do with me. Third is related to this, again, diffusion of responsibility. And, like the case in Minnesota, I can understand people not wanting to necessarily get involved in, a physical attack of that nature. But at least maybe call the authorities, call 911, call the police. But a lot of times there's an assumption in these situations, so I'm hoping that was the case in Minnesota where they figured, okay, well, somebody else probably called 911. So it's not my responsibility, somebody else already handled it. Competence, again, like I talked about the example on Tuesday where if there's a beach whale or something like that going on, or somebody needs a Heimlich maneuver, and they're choking, do you have the competence? Do you have the skills to actually help or assist them, or might you make things worse? So like a lot of times, for example, like in athletics, if somebody gets hurt on the field or something, one of the teammates might want to help them up, but the trainers were like, no, leave them alone. Like, you might, again, let the trained professionals help here since we can get to them quickly and we can provide assistance accordingly. And then the 5th step is just simply whether or not you provide help or not. Let's break these down a little bit more. I'm going to go through these, pretty quickly because I'm hoping that was a sufficient explanation. And like I talked about before, utilize the diagrams in your books and things of that nature to kind of, give you a sense of how these things are broken down as well. So the presence of others sometimes, like I said, can divert attention from even noticing the problem. You're talking to your friends, or, particularly again, in a big city or something like that, there's so much, we talk about stimulus, like, it's like, things that are stimulating your attention. So it's so many other things going on that you genuinely may not notice if there's an emergency going on. I'm sure, for example, with the awful shooting in Colorado the other day, that some people in there probably took them a couple of moments to really recognize what was happening. You know, you're going about your business in the grocery store, something like that is the last thing you're expecting. So you may not even, you know, notice. It takes you a couple of seconds to like, hey, what's happening? Second, again, how do you interpret the situation? So pluralistic, you know, when you hear the word plural, more than one, pluralistic innocence, where a lot of times, again, your personal interpretation might be, you know, it's easier to interpret things if the group is interpreting things a certain way. So if other people around you are not interpreting this as an emergency, you're less likely to either. That's why, like, again, oftentimes, you know, the more people are around, if you're in distress, Maisha, a lot of times the more people that are around, the less likely you're to get help. Because a lot of times there's an assumption, well, one of these people to help her. They, again, another, you know, horrific example in this chapter, there was a situation like in spring break in Florida a couple years back. This is a girl, she was drunk, totally passed out. Several dudes proceeded to rape and assault her. This is in a crowded spring break, on a crowded spring break beach. Hundreds of people around. Ain't nobody doing nothing. Does this mean that all the people are just heartless and careless? Some, like, you know, because it was some people that was actually, like, you know, recording the shit with their phone. Like, you know, I'm not sure that that's necessarily a really good look. But a lot of times, like, people probably assume, like, okay, well, her girl, she can't be here by herself. Her girls will come help her. Or, you know, the police will come eventually. So that pluralistic ignorance, you know, the more people are around, where if, you know, maybe if it was just one or two people around, she might have had a better chance of getting assistance. Related to this, again, diffusion of responsibility. If it's your friend that, you know, you go out with and something is happening to them, you know, Michael, I think, yes, you got some level of responsibility there. So a difficult thing, like I would have a boy, you know, about my fucking size. But every time we go out, man, he wants to fight everybody in the club. Bounces everybody. He don't care. And it's like, damn, like, you know, again, like it's my response. It's at least part of my responsibility to help him out. I'm just trying to chill and get old girl number. Now you got me on some other stuff. Hopefully you won't have that kind of severe situations. But, you know, if somebody gets sick, if somebody, again, you know, has some kind of other medical distress, we see responsibility for those that we love and that we're close to. Sometimes, you know, I had some friends a few years back. They saw this black dude getting jumped by a bunch of white cats. And because, and keep this example in mind, because this will become relevant in a moment with some of the theories we'll talk about. They saw a responsibility to want to assist them. Again, in my own case, like in teaching at the HBCU, you know, again, I was not at HBCU previous to this. I wanted to teach around Black people because I feel a sense of responsibility for other Black folks. And let me be clear, it wasn't like, you know, like when I taught my white students, it wasn't like I wasn't, you know, going all out for them. I would. Any student that needs me, I got them. But I also would feel like a lot of those students, when I was at NC State, Shakira, that a lot of those students would, they're probably going to be able to be successful no matter what, the way that the world has been structured for them. And this don't mean that, you know, white middle class and upper class people don't have challenges. They do. But I know as a young Black student myself that there were times where there were people that I would not have made it without. So I wanted to kind of pay that forward and want to pay that forward as well. You also decide how to help. And again, you know, so if somebody is, you know, passed out and you don't know how to do CPR, you know, you want to help them, but, you know, you don't know how to do CPR. So sometimes people may be reluctant to help because they fear they might, you know, mess things up. They may make a bad impression on observers, or they may make the situation worse. So there also will be inhibition to help. As Ron talked about on Tuesday, there's also, like, particularly among certain cultures and in certain environments, a strong pull towards minding your own business. So the bystander effect, again, is related to, the notion that if there are other people that are willing to help, you're more likely to just serve as a bystander and not lean in and help yourself. We even see this in online engagement. Keep in mind, we talk about, a lot of our social interactions, more and more of them are virtual, such as this. And in these situations, so say, for example, like, if you see somebody being bullied in, at school, you might be quicker and it's easier for you to intervene than if you see somebody being bullied online. And in that way, it's like, okay, so who is really responsible for this? In some cases, may feel like, okay, Facebook or Twitter is responsible for making sure that this person is not being offended. It ain't my responsibility. But again, keep in mind, we're talking about here the social psychology of why people do and do not help. And what the bystander effect just simply speaks to is that whether it be in a physical setting or online settings, that people are often less likely to help the more people that are around. Are there any questions or comments so far?
No, sir.
So how can we avoid the bystander effect? As always, right, we, much like we talked about, and we'll talk about some more, we all have certain biases and certain prejudices, every human being. But there are ways, again, particularly if you're conscious of these things. So if you're conscious of these things, if you're aware that they're going on, you can reduce them. If you have a prejudice against, Hispanics, if you have prejudice against homosexuals, if you have prejudice against police officers, millennials, prejudice against people from another sorority, that, again, like how you feel, if it's a natural thing, you can't beat yourself up too much about that. But if you feel like that's problematic, and biases and prejudices can be problematic, it can be problematic not to help people when they need it. I will hope, again, here at Allen, where, we try and teach social and civic engagement beyond just, education. I will hope that you use your skill sets and knowledge to help as many people as possible. And here's some things that can help you reduce your unlikelihood to help, even in the presence of other people. That if they know or feel connected to each other, again, like, if it's people that you're more likely to help. If it's multiple people helping, so like, Michael, if it's only up to you to break up this fight between, like, this dude and his girl, that might be asking a little bit much. But if it's 5 of y'all, like, okay, look, hey, Maisha and Jakira, y'all get her. Like, me and Dr. Muhammad go get him. Like, break this up. But I ain't finna go in there by myself, Dr. Muhammad. And then people don't want to feel, if people feel scorned for failing to help, so we talked about in some locales, they may have a Samaritan law, a Good Samaritan law, where you are forced to help. In sports and stuff like that, right? We talk about helping. If you've ever watched basketball, Michael, and if your teammate falls to the floor, what do you expect it to do?
Pick them up.
All right, running over there. Because if you don't, the coach oftentimes is going to be in your ass. Like, dude, like, help your teammate. What do you do? Hey, Michael, come out the game. But I've been playing good. So what? We trying to create a value system here. Y'all got to look out for each other. So there are ways that you can create cultures, again, within families. There are things that parents can do, like, hey, Maisha, look out for your little sister. If I hear that such and such, what, you had some extra ice cream and you didn't share with her, okay, cool, you ain't getting this. So if you feel scorned for not helping, you're more likely to get into the habit of helping. And then a person in a leadership role who's in a helping occupation is more likely to help. I know you all, some of you all are going into human services. Human services is a helping occupation. It is a job, a career field where the whole purpose of it in many ways is to help other people make their lives better. So you can go into work that helps you fulfill that goal. Again, there are things that we can do. We can train people. All this, right? We talked about in the beginning of this chapter. There are some things that are wired into us genetically that provoke us to help or not help. We talked about kinship selection, for example. But like with anything, we believe that we can socialize people into certain behaviors. So there have been training programs, anti-bullying programs, for example, like in schools and stuff like that. So again, where a lot of times, things will be happening, like, again, people won't even notice a lot of times that, okay, this person is being bullied every day. High school, elementary school, it's a really busy time. It's a self-consumed time. Then do you interpret this? Because it's a thin line, right? Where are people just cracking jokes, or you just, normal type, fun type things? I know, Jakir, you've done research on hazing. So like, where's the line between we're trying to do some rites of passage type stuff and things that might be a little bit out of bounds? So how do you interpret that? There are training programs that help us with those kind of things. And then, as we talked about, it can be difficult and challenging to actually step out and assist in those kind of situations, whether it be bullying, sexual assault. But I will hope if you are exposed to those kind of things that you will assist, because one of the things it speaks to is that, all of us are going to need help at some point. And it will suck if people, are bystanding when we're in moments of deep distress. So you can reduce diffusion in this situation. If you're in a situation that you need some other people to help you, Maisha, you got somebody out, laid out on the quad, they're in distress. People walking by Michael, his ignorant ass is just walking by like he don't see nothing. So you make eye contact. Hey, Michael, I see you, dog. Hey, Michael, you ain't finna help me? What? Michael, hey. Michael, try one. So you make eye contact. You point like, hey, Michael, I'm talking to you, dog. You. Like, huh? Me? Yes, you. Come over here and help me. I can't lift this big dude by myself. Come over here and help you, Michael. And then just make it a direct request. Like, hey, can y'all two help me do X, Y, Z? And again, we've done this before. Like, it doesn't have to be anything major. It could be something, a faculty member or somebody is loading up their car. You see something that's too heavy. Hey, young man, can you come help me real quick? Oh, yeah, no problem. So things of that nature, make a direct request. I know your mama told you it's impolite to point, but sometimes it might be necessary to point at the people you need help from. And then making eye contact. We talked about, again, that much of our communication is nonverbal. So those are some nonverbal ways where you can elicit some help as well. Again, we're talking about the psychology, the mindset that causes us to help or not help people, the mindset that causes us to help or not help people. One of the more obvious ones is just the time pressure. What this speaks to, we all got demands on our time, particularly in these days. Do you have time to help? There have been many experiments done in this regard, Jakir, where a mean old professor might set up an experiment. I have not done this. I wouldn't do y'all like this, but might set up an experiment where, if you 5 minutes late from my class, you ain't getting that attendance point for the day. But you run into class and you see somebody has tripped and fallen like on the stairs, going into into Chappelle? Do you stop and help them, or do you lose those points for the day? You may go ahead and help them. The points for the day, that ain't too much. But what if it's a situation where, okay, I've been late for work 3 times. If I'm late for work one more time, my boss is really going to trip. I'm on my way to this interview. Man, I've been wanting, I've been wanting to go out with this girl for like, 2 months. I finally got her to agree to go out with me. I'm running a little bit behind for this date, but I see this person that needs help. So research studies have shown time and time again that people that have, like, if you're in between classes, Maisha, you're going to be, and you got some time to spare, the research is going to show you're more likely to help. If you're in a rush, you're not. So keep this in mind as well, because a lot of times, right, we talk about the social psychology, we may beat ourselves up sometimes for not helping when, people may have needed. Like, man, I really wanted to help this person, but I had to get to my own job, or I had to get my own child to school. And some of that is normal, natural, but again, situations often determine how helpful we may be. And if we just don't have the time to help and assist, and keep in mind, we're talking about other things, whether it be volunteering your time, in very many other cases, it may be volunteering your money. Do you volunteer your money when you broke yourself? That's probably not a good idea. People who support and love you, they probably shouldn't want you to do that. Another thing that affects whether or not we'll help is just simply the mood that we're in when we're asked for help. Are you in a good mood? Or are you in a bad mood? And the question here, does a person's mood affect the likelihood that he or she will help? I'm gonna give you a spoiler alert. Yes, it does. And again, we talked about this a little bit before, right? Where if you ask your mama for something, like, you might need to borrow the car, or you want to, get some extra money or something like that, you're going to be observant of her mood before you ask sometimes. Mom call home, she's snapping off, she cursed people out on the phone, spazzing out, yelling at the TV. Shakira, what was it you wanted me to help? What was it you wanted to ask me? Nothing right now, Mom. I'm gonna come back in a couple of hours. I'll ask you later on. This also applies to other things within our environment. The weather itself. Again, this isn't just hyperbole. Much research has been done on this, Maisha. People are in better moods when the weather is nice than when it's when it's not. We see this in parts of the country, whether it be California or people that grow up in Florida, different parts of the world. You be having a lot of destitution and poverty in, some of these Caribbean countries, some of these African countries, but the people be a lot happier a lot of times in, rich countries like America. Hell, I know I grew up in a very cold weather place. You could see the whole city almost transform, Michael, like when Chicago would transform to winter to spring. I'd be waking up mad as hell, dog, just because. Fuck, is it so damn cold? God damn it. I ain't got nobody to be mad at. I'm just mad because it's cold and windy. For months on end. Literally, when the weather starts to break, the vibe and mood change. Although, ironically, a lot more people get shot at that time of year too. But that's for a different reason. And that's pretty much everywhere. It's more people out. But be mindful about this for yourselves, right? That that some may be more affected by the weather than others, but there are certain things that can have a certain impact upon your mood. During the football season, the damn Dallas Cowboys. I've gotten better about this. But after losses, yeah, I'll be having to check myself on Mondays. Okay, look, Maisha didn't have nothing to do with that interception in the fourth quarter. At least I don't think she did. So go ahead, Muhammad, be cool. Like, I mean, relationships, like I've broken up with people over the after Cowboy games. Yes, yeah, it's bad, I know.
You are ruthless.
Say it again, Maisha.
You are ruthless.
Yeah. And I would, yeah, but like you'll be mad about one thing and it'd be hard to just turn that thing off. So this other thing that's provoking me, and again, it may not be the Cowboys for y'all. I certainly hope not. But whatever it may be, if you know, if y'all get mad at me, like, you know, you get a bad grade on something, don't take that on your boyfriend. He ain't got nothing to do with that. But, you know, it takes a lot. And definitely, like, you know, when we're, again, trying to help other people, because also keep in mind, right, that we talked about that many times people help to put themselves in a good mood. So it can go to reverse as well. That if you know you're in a bad mood, sometimes a way of making yourself feel better can help somebody else. And keep in mind here, like, so the diagrams that you see here, definitely check this out, but this is in your text. So it talks about why feeling good leads to doing good. That when you're feeling better, you're more likely to help other people, Jakira. But also, where it says here at the bottom, that positive thoughts about other social activities that conflict with helping. If our good mood makes us want to go out and party with our friends, then our motivation to engage in social activity may actually prevent us from helping at times as well. So sometimes we may feel good and it might cause us to be more self-indulgent and want to do more things to aid that good feeling rather than to spread that energy to others. There's no perfect model for this, and all of us have had different sentiments at different times. But for the most part, you know, so think about this, for example, right, where if you ever have to become a fundraiser or something, Michael, and you have to ask people for money or have to ask people for something, like the mood there, like you really want to be mindful of the mood that people are in before you ask. Again, as we talked about, there is some correlation with bad moods where there are some people who like, look, I feel really bad, so I want to, like, you know, do something nice for somebody else to make myself feel better. But the research in that regard, Jakira, isn't as strong as the correlation between good moods and helping people out. So say, for example, like if you were trying to like run a charity in Tampa Bay, Florida, the day after they won the Super Bowl, like probably will be a good day, you know, to make a lot of calls. In Kansas City, Missouri that day, it might not have worked out as well. Role models are obviously very important in anything, and this is definitely true in terms of helping. And obviously, there are no more important role models than our parents. The degree that we see them helping other people, I know a large part, like, you know, even when I talk about how there are things that I get psychologically from helping you all and helping other Black people in particular, a lot of that came because my parents groomed in me from a very early age the idea that that was really important. That if you was in that, you know, I'm being told 4, 5 years old, as hard as other Black people have had in this country, Kareem, if you're in a position to help other Black people and you don't do it, we're gonna disown you. They wouldn't tell me that, but you know. But made it clear. Now, of course, my parents couldn't just tell me that and it stick. They got to show me that. So again, whether it be you seeing this, seeing your grandmother, like, you know, some of the charitable things that she may do around her church or something, that this increases helping behavior. Keep this in mind as well, right? Again, I'm pretty confident most of you all probably want to be parents one day yourselves. And think about the things that you want your children to become and what you want to model. ain't gonna take on everything that you model. They're still human beings with their own personalities and minds. But you'll be amazed at how much of these things, like, influence and shape. By the same token, if you grow up around, parents or role models that, because parents are not your only role models, obviously. Coaches, media figures, clergymen, your friends can be role models. You just spend the most time around your parents and they have the most influence. But whatever your role model is, can sometimes, be a role model where they model not helping other people. That, hey, you just look out for yourself, Maisha. And those kind of things, kind of stick as well. So that can be a lot of social influence. And this is one thing, like, although there can be some things that are problematic about social media, there also is a great deal of social influence in terms of helping. So every few years, there might be like some charity going on or some major initiative that, we want to drive. So like, I'm not sure how many, y'all probably way too young for this, but the Ice Bucket Challenge that was going on a few years back where I think it was related to multiple sclerosis. I forget what disease it was. But basically, like, you were pouring ice over yourself, and the purpose was to get you to kind of empathize, Michael, with how people who were going through that disease, how they would feel sometimes. And they would raise money in charity and just raise awareness to want to help out people that were going through that illness. There have been cases where you might be in line at Starbucks, Shakira, and you're getting your 20 blend coffee. And you might be like, you know what? The person behind me put theirs on my card too. You're like, man, that was really nice. I'm gonna do something nice for somebody else. Signing cards, so like, they're that in the dorms or something, my shift, like if somebody on your floor, if they have a birthday or they get sick, everybody might get a card for her, and you don't really like that person. But what you do, what people do most times anyway in that situation? They sign the card anyway. Now, I'm one of these, like, kind of ignorant, petty people on my Michael. So like, I'll be signing your cards. Like, we had a situation like that, like, at a job, I won't say where. And everybody was like, getting a card for a person. It's like, man, that nobody really, I'm like, nah, dog. Like, I don't wish this person no harm, but I can't be signing the card. I'm sorry. Yeah, I just can't. But there have definitely been times where, again, I have succumbed to social pressures to help other people out in ways that might not have been the case, otherwise. Whether it be like, in a mosque or something like that, and they pass around a collection plate. And I have definitely have felt pressures to maybe give a little bit more than I would have because other people are doing so. Again, ideally, I don't want you all doing that. I want you to help because you actually want to help. But it is important to be aware of social pressures. I'm going to get bumped out in a moment. Actually, let me see. Yeah, I'm going to go through these. I'm going to get bumped out in a moment. We will log back in at 3:20 sharp. We'll log back in at 3:20 sharp using the same link. So let me get through these real quick. And now we're talking about personal influences, meaning what type of person can we, so the same way we can identify the type of person that might be more likely to become an engineer as opposed to a dentist. We can identify the type of person that might be more likely to commit physical assaults. We can identify the type of person that might be more likely to have a smaller family or larger family. We can identify the type of person that might be attracted to this kind of person over this type of person. We also believe that there are personal traits that suggest what type of people might be more helpful than others. Because there are many people, again, like it's cold-blooded as this planet and this country can be sometimes. We have a lot of people, again, that give a whole bunch of themselves. We get many celebrities such as, again, Angelina Jolie, Bono, who give all types of money and give their time to charities and bring attention to different causes to help other people that are not like them. Bill and Melinda Gates, again, one of the wealthiest families in the world, have given away a large proportion of their wealth, and they've actually like give away more money than their children will inherit. People like Mother Teresa, she was a Catholic nun who was constantly just, exposing herself to some really severe and treacherous conditions, working with sick people in pandemics, working in war zones, working amongst really impoverished people, and not looking to get anything tangible in return. So this makes us wonder, is there an altruistic personality? So the same way that like, there's a OCD personality. There's type A and type B personalities. We wonder, is there an altruistic personality? Is there a personality that just makes people more helpful? And we don't believe that much of this is genetic, but we do think that they have certain social traits. This is definitely something that you might see on the quiz or the exam, so please study it closely, but don't just try and memorize. And again, some of it, just think about when you're going through this, right? And this is where I mean about taking good notes is not just copying down what I have here. I want you to put like you probably know people like this, like put that in your notes, put that in your margins. That'll help you remember. These are usually people that are very agreeable. That again, somebody, they don't give a lot of drama. They don't have like a lot of conflicts with folks. These are people that are pretty humble. One of the things we talked about in the first half of the class was like your development in moral reasoning, where some people, again, Jakira, they do certain things because I'm not gonna do this because my parents told me it's wrong. So the law said that you're not supposed to integrate in 1950s America, so I'm just going to obey the law. An advanced level of moral clarity would be what was had by Martin Luther King in that situation. Like, look, I know the law says this, but this law is wrong and it's against humanity, and here's why. So that's a little bit more of a mature level of moral reasoning that considers the needs of other people. Most people, again, right, we talked about before that the definition of a mature person in many ways, Michael, is the ability to look outside of yourself and see how other people are affected, particularly by your actions. There are many adults, people that are even older than me, that don't have the capability of doing that. But people with the altruistic personality do. They also are able to show empathetic concern for others, meaning that they're able to put themselves in other people's shoes. Now, the text gives you a lot of different, highlights and case studies to kind of hammer home some of these points. We're going to discuss one of these after the break. So if you haven't had a chance to yet, maybe check this out a little bit so we can have a more informed discussion. We'll log back in at 3:20 sharp. I'll see you all at that time.